covering everything from inputs to market access, certification, production. So we are a body consisting of what you'd call private sector extension experts. And the masterclass is our platform to really give some professional insights onto the things that make or contribute towards successful and sustainable agribusiness. All our previous sessions are recorded. You can visit the SOCA YouTube channel and find previous recordings. You can also engage with us through social media platforms. And we look forward to having your questions answered, and also to receiving your contributions as the discussion progresses. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce our moderator, Nicolas Wafula. She's a member of SOCA. She's a board member in the society, but she's also a very well accomplished agribusiness expert in her own right, from an agriculture economics background. And yes, her details are present and with us, and she will maybe say a few things about herself even as she introduces the panelists for tonight. So please share your questions, your comments, any feedback. Use the chat box to introduce yourself, to share your contacts, say where you're from, and we look forward to having a very engaging session this evening. Karibuni sana. Nekesa, over to you.
Thank you, Ricky, for the introduction. My name is Nekesa, as Ricky has said, and I'm currently the Business Development Manager at CropNuts, dealing with the smallholder value chains. I also sit in the board of SOCA, and I'm also in the Council for ASNET. And as we progress today, we are going to talk about, the role of agribusiness advisors in terms of maximizing value addition and market access. So with this, we are going to look at the whole value chain. Where do the agribusiness advisors come in? And also, how does this role affect us in terms of delivery? When we are talking about food, when we are talking about output, how does this affect our delivery of systems? We are going to also look at the brokers and the role of brokers or agents in our systems. So I'll welcome our able panelists, that is Jen Musindi and Nicolas Ambania, to introduce themselves. Karibu, Jen.
Thanks, Nekesa. My name is Jen Musindi. I sit on the board of SOCA, the Society of Crop Agribusiness Advisors of Kenya. I'm an independent consultant. My main focus area is market access systems, helping smallholders and SMEs access a wider market share than what they have now, and that we do through formalizing systems, making sure they have records, and bringing them up to speed with any standards that they may require to produce or manufacture under. I'm also a board member of ASNET, the Agriculture Sector Network, it has been in place for about 6 months, and it is a collaboration between KEPSA, National Chamber of Commerce, Kenya Association of Manufacturers, and the membership is made up of most BMOs that operate in the agriculture space. I'm happy to be here. Thanks.
Good, thank you. Next, my name is Nicolas Ambania. I consider myself as an accomplished agribusiness manager and expert with a total of 21 years experience in the horticulture and floriculture and agro-processing industries, where I worked for that period. Currently, I'm working as head of fresh business division at Twiga Foods. Twiga Foods, I would say, is a modern day organized professional broker in terms of taking product from farmers, from processors, from suppliers, and delivering it to the customer in the most efficient way possible. I have experience spanning from setup of unit agricultural or horticultural projects or production units, processing, and all the way to marketing. I've had a very fruitful engagement with the different value chain players across the globe and different continents of Russia, Europe, Middle East, and back here in South Africa and around. Just understanding the whole aspect around horticulture and floriculture. And as a member of SOCA, I bring to the group that kind of experience of being able to engage and advise and discuss different value chain aspects, challenges, and solutions as we look into food security in the future. Thank you. I'm happy to be here. I'll be glad to engage with you, answer your questions, and together we forge our way forward. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nicolas and Jen. So I will invite Jen to share her presentation with us, and we are looking forward to learning so much from you. Karibu, Jen.
Okay, please ask Ricky to stop sharing his. Thank you.
Ricky, could you please stop sharing your screen so that we can be able to share our screens?
Okay. What we'll do now is to get an introduction of why standards are important in trade. This is just an overview, an in-depth presentations. A standard is a repeatable, harmonized, agreed, and documented way of doing things. They contain technical specification criteria designed to be used consistently. And the standards we are looking at today are the ones that
we are losing you.
Organizations are required to regulations. I found. Okay. Am I good now? Can you hear me now?
Yeah,
That's better.
Thank you.
Let's see how.
Thank you.
You can start from the first slide.
Okay. So that's the first slide. So a standard is a repeatable, harmonized, agreed, and documented way of doing things. They contain technical specifications or rather precise criteria designed to be used consistently as a rule, guideline, or definition. Any organization can come up with their own standards for internal or external use, but the ones that we are looking at today are the ones that many institutions are supposed to abide by. So there's a difference between a standard and a regulation. Usually people confuse this, and the difference lies in its compliance. So standards, conformity is voluntary. You can choose to follow or not, depending on maybe your marketplace or whichever method, but it is voluntary. You don't have to abide by them. Now, a specification outlines the requirements of a product. Now, a regulation is mandated by a government body and is required by law to be complied with. So standards are voluntary, but regulations you must comply with. So examples of standards is like the KS 1758 that we have, Global Gap, BRC. We also have regional standards from the EAC. Those are standards and you don't have to comply with, but if you're going to trade with different places, then you may be required to comply with some standard. But a regulation is a legal requirement. So the Crops Act, the Employment Act, this one, if you don't comply with, you can be taken to court, you can be fined, or you can be incarcerated. So these ones are punishable regulations, but standards are voluntary. So what is the role of standards in the food chain? One is improved market access, because if you're complying to a certain, say, international standards, then your customers have confidence that you can be trusted. And number two, your product therefore is more competitive than for another one who is not following any standard. Number three, you introduce some efficiency in your system because you reduce waste, therefore reducing costs. And then contractual agreements are made easy because there's a standard way of doing things. And then you increase the quality of the product you're producing, because at the end of the day, if you are following a consistent way of manufacturing or producing, then your quality is basically maintained, and your customers can be assured of the same quality as you whatever you put on the market. Then facilitating business interaction. It provides rules for how business can interact, reduces chances of misunderstandings and mix-up, because if both of you are following a similar standard, you generally accept that you have the same focus on quality and on how to produce, how to satisfy your customer. So really, misunderstanding and mix-ups are reduced, and they cost money, time, and they damage trust. Then they are meant to protect consumers, ensuring safety, durability, and market equity of the product. They enable companies comply with relevant laws and regulations. Now for this, like what the Kenya government does, you may have a standard that may be voluntary, but then a law comes and quotes that standard or parts of that standard. Then it makes it mandatory for you to comply to the standard once it's in the law. Or inside that standard, the standard is based on some laws. Like for Kenya, you can't manufacture, you can't have a factory without following the Factories Act. So once it's in a standard, then it makes it easier for you to comply with these laws and regulations. Then it facilitates innovation, because it gives boundaries. If you're going to produce something new, then you know where the boundaries are for this new product you're producing. So there are some guidelines. So there is some interface between the new and existing products, services, or processes, therefore speeding up an innovative products to the market. And benefits of standards to the business: reducing costs, enhancing competitiveness, mitigating risks. Now, if you follow a certain system, then it will mean that in your general business practice, you can identify where problems can occur if you're following the same system throughout. But if you just produce ad hoc, you will never know where a problem came in, where most of your costs are going, and that makes it very risky to carry out your business. Then it's consistent, it makes you consistent. The product that you're putting out onto the market is consistent in quality, in what is required for the customer. It gives customer confidence. For example, there's a place you can go to and eat something, that you order something and you get it in a certain version. Then when you go back the next day and you order the same thing, it looks different and tastes different. Then you will not order the same thing again. So it builds customer confidence. It provides uniformity in everything you're doing. So you can train people on how to produce what you want. It eliminates trade borders, because if you're producing something in Kenya and somebody else is producing the same item in Uganda, but you're following the same standards, then you are going to produce a similar product. So you can actually share. If somebody goes short, you can share from another place. Universal vendor requirements provides a uniform guidance on vendor requirements. For example, what is required for your suppliers, what is required for your clients. So there's no guesswork. And then it therefore providing better relations with suppliers and clients, which is derived from improved safety of to the consumer. Then it ensures that products perform functions that they were meant to buy. That way, discover it is just for storing you. Let's narrow down to standards in food safety. So, what is food safety? According to Codex, food safety is the assurance that food will not cause harm to the consumer when it is prepared and or eaten according to its intended use. Conversely, food is potentially harmful when it has been exposed to hazardous agents and guidelines for intended use have not been followed. You can't claim food is unsafe if you are asked, if the label on the product said cook before eating and then you eat it raw and it brings you a problem, then, well, you can't claim that the manufacturer caused you a problem because you really did not follow the intended use guidelines. Codex is the universal coding association for agriculture. It's under the FAO, Food and Agriculture Organization. So most of the standards you find have derived a lot of definitions and a lot of guidance from the Codex standards. Food safety and trade. Because of globalization, food trade offers many benefits to consumers. For example, we have many Kenyans living in the UK, so we can actually provide Kenyan food to our Kenyans in the UK because of globalization. But because of that, there are very many opportunities. If there's a food safety issue, it then goes very wide because you cross borders with the food. And then it can provide opportunities for food exporting countries to earn foreign exchange, which is required for economic development. Now, in Kenya especially, we also have counties. So you can have inter-county trade. A county like maybe now they are producing, but maybe the marginalized ASAL counties that may not be able to grow their own food can trade with another county that can produce food, and they trade with something else that they can afford to trade with. So the whole country is kept fed through available these opportunities for trading. But because of that, implications are single source of contamination may become widespread in a very short time with consequences. And then several new sources of foodborne diseases are of increasing relevance to international trade. And we can also say inter-county trade in food and agricultural products, which has grown substantially over the recent years. So there has been emphasis on food safety standards aimed at protecting the health and safety of consumers. Food safety standards have been developed to address various risks, including those associated with micropathogens, residues of pesticides, veterinary drugs in food, environmental contaminants like heavy metals, and naturally occurring toxins like mycotoxins, which on this one, aflatoxin is included. So there's been increased controls in food trade for fresh fruits and vegetables and now herbs. Most hazards emanate from production practices and of the environment. For spices and nuts and grains, the issue is mycotoxins, and on nuts and spices, additives as well. An increased number of countries have severely tightened their products and process standards related to fish and fisheries. We know we had a ban as of 5 years ago on fish because of our hygiene standards. And then with the emerging links between certain animal diseases and human health, like avian flu and mad cow, which is BSC, there is more stringent sanitary measures adopted for meat and poultry. But most of these food standards are based on risk assessments. So why do we need a risk analysis before we come up with a standard? Most trade agreements that require scientific validation of food safety measures used by national governments are based on risk assessment as appropriate to the circumstances. General public concern over real or imagined foodborne hazards to health. Now, this one includes, how do we say, the media. The media come up with some alarming stories on food safety. So there's a need to carry out risk analysis to find out whether it is real or imagined, because where the it's sensationalized. There has to be a scientific basis for that perceived hazard before any action can be taken. Otherwise, it will become an expensive exercise. Then recognition of the absence of systematic framework for assessing the risks associated with food in international trade. We have a problem with that in Kenya. We don't know which system to follow to assess these risks. And then inclusion of risk assessment principles in national legislation and new legislative conditions that facilitate product liability claims. If you go to a hotel and you have eaten bad food, or you get home and suddenly you have foodborne illness, it is very rare that you will know where you got it. And even if you know where you got it, you may not know how to seek redress because the coordination and the framework is not there. So what is risk analysis? So risk analysis is in three parts. There is the risk assessments, which require scientific output. You must specify exactly what you are dealing with and where it will enter through and how it can enter through that, whether it's either by the food not being kept at the right temperature or in the right condition. And then there's the risk management side, decisions involving policy and values. How do you sort out the risks that you have identified in the assessment? Then on top of it, how do you communicate these risks? How do you communicate this whole process? The public and your stakeholders must know what you're doing to mitigate risks and how you came about that those risks are actually significant or not. Then challenges to the food control system in Kenya. Most food safety challenges facing the country could be attributed to the management system's inability to detect potential risks and gaps, share information, plan together, and identify appropriate strategies for collaborative management of food safety in the supply chain and protect the consumer. We have over-sensationalized food safety, and mostly it's not based on science. And then the biggest challenge to the Kenya's food control system is poor coordination. We have about something like 23 laws that touch on food safety, but we are not told how all these 23 laws are coordinated and by whom. We have across most ministries and across most, what do you call them? Formations like cafes, there's cabs, there's many people handling food safety, but we are not told who is coordinating all of them. So thank you until there. And next week we can handle specific regulatory requirements. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jane. I can already see some questions that I'll be sending your way. And I would like to invite Nicolas to his presentation. Karibu, Nicolas.
Thank you very much. So I'm ready to present. Let me try and share my screen when we are just here. Okay, are you able to see my screen?
Yes.
Yes, could you please put it in the presentation mode?
Yes, this way. That's
yes,
right?
Yes, thank you.
Good, so thank you once again. As I had introduced myself earlier on, my name is Nicolas Ambania, and currently the company I work for is a market leader in terms of providing market access to small, medium, and large-scale farmers in Kenya. For information, sorry, you can hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, something came up, so I just need to deal with that on this. Just give me a minute. There's a sound, so I need to disable in the presentation. Okay, you can hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Thank you. Yeah, so I was saying the company that I work for is a market leader in terms of provision of a market access to small scale, medium, and large scale farmers. So because of time, I'll go straight into the business of the days. Business of the day. So the first thing that I would like to educate our viewers and our listeners in this particular session is that the market in Kenya, the food market in Kenya is segmented. And this is a very, very important aspect to understand when you are going to be a supplier or a producer in this particular market. And therefore, just to educate you, for those who would not know that there are about 5 segments in the local market. And Nicolas, how do I remove your faces on this far right so that I can see the whole screen?
Just try shifting to sliding the screen to your, is it to your right or something, if you're using your phone or something.
I'm using my laptop. So
though we can
okay.
see you, we can see your presentation is okay from our end.
Okay, I don't know why I'm having, let me just see if I needed to change this hide and video participants. Okay. I'm almost succeeding what I wanted to do. Okay. Now I can, yeah, I'm okay now. I'm okay. Okay, fine. So I've managed to shift the pictures there. So good. So we are about 5 market segments in a Kenyan context, and these segments are as follows. So the first is the hawkers or the kiosks. Just start visualizing how a typical marketplace looks like. And so this is would be basically what we would describe as street hawkers. Some of them would actually be on bicycle, some will be on foot, some will be pushing carts. They'll be hawking product in traffic jams, or they'll be targeting where there is a heavy traffic flow of people and things like that. So that's the first category. Now, they'll be targeting a low to medium income adults. They'll also be typically provide refreshment or light meals, single serve, small packs, low cost items, some clothes, some pieces of basic items, house items, and things like that. Basically, the pricing aspect in this. So you look at my table. I'm trying to depict all the aspects of each market in terms of description, consumer type, the occasion which they'll be trying to address, and also the pricing structure there. So this is a segment where there is a lot of price sensitivity, because people who buy from this particular segment or who supply this particular segment are actually very price sensitive. Then the second segment of the market is the open market. So these are basically stalls or tabletops in large markets. Mudurwa in the Kenya, Kulima. These are the type of markets that are represented here. They are both wholesale and retail in nature. Now, again, the consumer target will be low to middle income adults, and of course, even kids or school-going children. They'll be able to get their majority of their merchandise and the requirements right here. Now, the type of customers, the type of occasions that they serve or they attend to is the customers on budget looking for bargain on basic items. Again, this is still a section where people who visit the section are very price sensitive, looking for affordability. Then the next segment is the HoReCa. So this is the hotels, restaurants, and canteens that provide food service to the customers. Now, what we found out is that all this particular segment serves all types of customers, all types of consumers, mainly the middle to high income as well. And also what the kind of occasion that they try to service is a quick service restaurants, where people either looking for fine dining or just a hotel meal. There could be pubs, there could be bars, there could be canteens. They just provide meals. Again, there's a potential for premium pricing in this area, but still also there is also variability in terms of a range between affordability and premium dining, depending on which level of HoReCa you target. But there'll be assortment, there'll be quality, and also there'll be also, some sort of order and the completeness, unlike roadside kiosks. Then the next segment is actually the neighborhood stores. Neighborhood stores are small neighborhood shops that also retail basic items in estates, in residential areas, and also they be targeting low-income earners, people who would look at them as trusted sources of quality basic items near where they live. Again, they are also targeting high-income people who are looking for a quick source of basic items just behind their house and things like that. Again, there's a price sensitivity in this aspect, but really convenience and affordability also take precedence. Then lastly, we have hypermarkets. These are large urban supermarkets with wide products variety, and also mini-marts as well, in small residential areas and neighborhoods. They also fall in this category. They mainly target urban, well-to-do households, and they provide assortments of products to mainly high-income, and also the emphasis on quality and healthy products. So this basically targets high-earning people. The pricing here, there's potential for premium pricing. Things will be a bit expensive here because consumers will be focusing on quality, assortment, and order completeness. So if you are a producer or a supplier or a processor and you are targeting a market, it's very important to now be able to decide in which market will you play in. And this is the understanding that many producers lack, and the event in the process, they actually fail to gain the right market access because they have not studied the market segmentation to be able to understand which segment will they play in. And each segment, as just we have seen, has its own standards in terms of quality, in terms of customer expectations, in terms of affordability. And therefore, this is the landscape of customer or market segmentation in Kenya. Now, the next slide, I will just try to depict a market access value chain. Picking or leveraging on the Trigger Foods model that we currently run. So it's an example whereby in Mount Kenya, specifically Meru, Kirinyaga, and Embu, where we have up to 17,000 farmers from whom we buy bananas every day in the tune of 50 tons a day of bananas. And so another aspect is that many of our farmers and many small-scale farmers are also fragmented. They are working in fragmented units, not in consolidated units, and therefore they are sparsely dispersed in many areas. So the right word is that they are fragmented. And now, in that kind of fragmentation, market access becomes a real challenge. So one way of approach is to be able to come up with what we call collection or aggregation centers that are constructed and strategically placed in near these farmers. And so whether they be self-help groups, CBOs, individual farmers, in whatever way they're organized, they actually are able to cut down on the logistics needs by just bringing the product to this aggregation center from where we are able to pick. Then this product is picked from the aggregation center and delivered to a warehouse. It could be whichever place. In the case of Trigger Foods, this warehouse is located in Nairobi because our target market is in Nairobi. And now from a single source in the warehouse now, then we are able to store and also plan distribution of these products that have been sourced from various collection centers across the country. Now, in the process of also making proper utilization of collection centers can serve as can serve many purposes when engaging with farmers. So there can be training centers, but one most important thing that is part of this discussion at later date is issue of post-harvest management. So in the case of Trigger Foods, when the product comes to this collection center, it is in giving special attention to bananas. The bananas are sort of processed in a way or packaged in a way that we are able to reduce the post-harvest losses by between 15 and 20%, because the bananas are dehanded, they're cleaned, then they're packed in crates, unlike the conventional way of transporting where the whole bunches are loaded into trucks, they're thrown around, and by the time a bunch of banana reaches Nairobi, the customer is assured of between 25 to 30% loss by the time they're actually selling that batch. So that's the one of the most important roles of collection centers. So when transporting now bananas from the collection centers or any other product in a more organized way, the instances of losses, post-harvest losses, are heavily and significantly reduced. A benefit that is transferred back to the farmer, and also the benefit that helps us to be able now to make the product affordable because we have cut cost by increasing the productivity of the farmer for this particular crop product. Then also beyond the warehouse now, distribution is done to various outlets within the city. Those would be the 5 different segments that I just talked about. They are served in different categories, in different service levels, depending on the category and the segment you are in. And in so doing, we're able to reach approximately 7,800 vendors on a daily basis. So that's a typical how a value chain would work. So you can imagine if a single farmer with 1 acre or half an acre or a quarter acre is trying to access the market, we need this kind of setups in the country to be able to enable farmers to access market. So let's look at the Kenyan landscape in terms of the food market. What do we see? Until we have organizations like Trigger Foods that will cover the whole country and they play their role in mediating between the producer and the consumer, the markets continue to remain unstructured, though segmented, as I've just described. And as we will see, why would you have a producer in Kenyan, for example, having a problem getting a buyer for the cabbages? Yet the same cabbage in a town called Mailitisani and Amanga border is going for 100 shillings. And the farmer in Kenyan is giving it away for 5 shillings. It is an issue of unstructured market. And the role of marketing organizations like Trigger Foods now becomes in to structure the market and ensuring that they are taking the food from where it is grown and then delivering to where it is consumed. The only thing, as we're discussing earlier with my colleagues, that needs to be done is that the kind of market structuring that needs to be done, it has to have an element of sustainability in it. So when you are paying a farmer a price, are you paying the farmer a price which will enable the farmer to plant again, to produce again? Or are you taking advantage of the fact that there is a glut in the market and therefore paying a lower price? So organizations or marketing like us, we have gone into partnership with the farmers, partnership that are long-term. What happens in this partnership is that we then ensure that the farmer is paid a price which enables the farmer to farm over and over again. What that does, it introduces an element of sustainability in the value chain. We can always go back to the farmer and we can always get the product at a price that is good both to the farmer and to us, and we can transfer this product again to the consumer on the other side at also an affordable price, and the cycle continues. Another thing again that our markets lack systematic access, and that moves me to the next point, that many wholesale markets are actually controlled by cartels. I won't go into details, but you know there are markets in this country, in Nairobi, in Mombasa, where certain goons or groups or people, you must be in good terms with them to be able to be allowed to sell your tomatoes. You have to pay them, or you have to hand over your truck of tomatoes to them for them to sell and give them to you. So this is a big challenge, and such are informal systems that govern our markets, that there is no predictability, there is no reliability, there is no consistency in the way a marketing process takes place. Moving on, and lack of requisite regulation or failure of enforcement of the same is a big issue. And what this does, it actually denies a level playing field. I'll give you a very good example, viewers and listeners. Most county governments, including the national government, has rolled out a regulation that requires that potatoes, for instance, are packed in 50-kilogram bags only. And the transactions between the farmer and the buyers is conducted in terms of kgs and not bags. But there is lack of enforcement of this regulation, especially to the informal buyers that are not companies and are not organized. It's only organizations like us that if we try to do something different from what the regulations say, then the government can easily reach us and punish us. But other brokers that are in the informal sector continue to float these rules and regulations unabated. Therefore, as we stick to these rules, we then end up being disadvantaged in many ways, because then we are not able to have that complete transformation of the farmer's mind, shifting from selling in bags to shifting in selling in kilos, where the farmer ensures that actually they are paid for what they are produced. So that's one of the areas that we have a lot of work to be done. And of course, market access then can be very costly if there are no organizations like us. Imagine a small scale farmer with 100 kilos of potatoes trying to look for a market. You know, by the time he gets this 100 kilos of the market, it's not worth it. But with the marketing systems that involve marketing organizations like us, then with aggregation that has an aspect of fairness, transparency in pricing, sustainability, then farmers get to have the product sold. So as I finish, again, I've just tried to describe a typical supply chain from farmer, where we have a pre-production, there is farm production, then at farm gate, then the product is picked and transported to an aggregation storage, and then where necessary, there is a processing, either basic or enhanced processing or advanced processing. There could be another transport and storage as well, but eventually the product gets to the end market. This is the process that we have depicted within the existing value chains. And as you can see, that there are all advantages to it. So when you look at it, the first box, there are value propositions for the farmer. Farmer is able to access market in advanced marketing systems like what we run at Trigger Foods. All the farmer onboarding process, the transaction by farmer, and even on the other side of the vendor who are customers, are all digitalized. What this does, it eliminates human error, it eliminates any disadvantage on the side of the farmer. It makes the process transparent. It enables the farmer to have all the necessary information real time to make decisions on pricing, on harvesting schedules, and things like that. And so that what happens, and the farmer can be assured. Now, on the same digital platform, again, once a harvest has happened, booked and harvested, again, on the same platform, a payment is made to the farmer. Now, moving on to the next is that now when we are doing our aggregation and all these structures that were put in place, a centralized way of aggregating and distribution of this product, again, brings a lot of efficiency and enabling us again to pass on the benefit of low cost product to our consumers. On the other end, with organized systems like the ones we run, we are able to assure the consumer of security of supply, the delivery to the doorstep. So there's convenience aspect. I've talked about low prices already as a result of the efficiency that's created right from farm level to distribution center. There's a cashless process that I've already described through our digital platform, fast and swift, and also obviously the digital transaction data that we generate as a result of transacting with our clients is then used by financial institutions to be able to gauge the creditworthiness of our customers, and in the process they get credit. For example, in the way we work at Twiga Foods, the mobile digital platform, when a vendor or a certain customer in a market segment received our product, they have two choices: to pay cash from the M-Pesa bank, or to pay by loan. So when they choose to pay by loan and are registered on one of our credit providers, we have given access to the banking institutions to our database. So in real time, in seconds, the banking system accesses our database, quickly evaluates the customer, and confirms if the customer qualifies for a loan or not. And immediately, within a matter of few seconds, the customer gets a reply saying, yes, you qualify for a loan, and therefore this product that you have received from Twiga, you can pay by a loan. So these are the advancements that actually are there and can be made to be able to make market access a reality in the country. As I finish, is that again, what opportunities that are existing in the marketplace in terms of making the market access a reality? So I've talked about, again, bringing on the technology that will help manage data right from farm and also at the customer levels in real time. We can geotag customers. You can be able to use advanced routing system like what we do at Twiga. Once customers make their orders on a digital platform, the software then makes a routing plan based on those orders, and creates efficiency in doing so, and be able to deliver the product to the customer on time. There's aspect of fintech that I already talked about, that using this transaction data on the digital platform that we operate, financial institutions can deliver this data, transaction data, and be able to qualify customers for loans. And obviously, that strengthens the supply chain, which we try to build. As I finish, how then do farmers access market? Number one, I'll summarize by saying they need to understand your market. You need to understand your market. What does your market need in terms of the trends of consumption of the product that you are producing, the pricing of that product? What are the quality requirements of a particular market segment that you are addressing, you want to address? What is the right packaging? What is the right unit of sales? In a wholesome, we will call the market fit. You've got to conform to a market fit with the respective to this market segment that you want to serve. That's very important for a farmer to understand. The next thing, already Jen talked about standards. If the market has certain standards, it's important for you to familiarize yourself with those standards before you are able to attempt to supply or even produce that market. And then also, what will be your route to market? It's important to understand that once you've grown your product, then how will you get that product to the market? You may want to partner with marketing organizations like us, or you might want to decide a different way, but it's important to determine in advance that when we look at it. I've come across farmers who have an excellent crop in their farms and it's going to waste because they don't know what to do from there, how to get to the market. It's very important to determine this before you get into production. And then a support aspect on it is that contract supply is what we are now encouraging many farmers and all farmers to think about. If you can get into contracts with the would-be consumers or uptakers of your product, then you can concentrate on what you know how to do best, farming, and then you have a lot of predictability in terms of being able to know that you have already sold the product even before you begin to harvest it. Obviously, contract pricing, you need to be keen on productivity, that you attain the right productive. You also need to be able to negotiate the right prices, and also you need to be able to understand and meet the expected quality of your market, so that you do not grow and then the market comes and says this is not what expected. Thank you for listening to me. That's all I had for today. I'll be happy to engage and answer any questions or give any clarifications on that. Over to you, Nicolas.
Thank you so much, Nicolas. Those two presentations actually have brought in an aspect of, how the smallholder farmer can actually be onboarded onto a more commercial level. We've been looking at smallholder farmer in terms of individuals, but now when you group them, you can see the impact it can have, especially when it comes to market. So some questions for you, Jen. When we are looking at standards, how practical are these when it comes to applying these standards to the normal farmer, just the normal farmer? Can these standards be, interpreted by this farmer at the smallholder level? And also when we are looking at accessibility, how accessible are these standards? Do they even know that these standards exist? And when you mentioned about risk assessment, in terms of messaging and giving out the key messages to the masses in terms of the country or maybe region, are these like set or cast in stone that these are the processes that anybody should go through before they relay a message out to the masses? So yeah, over to you, Jen, for some clarifications.
Thank you, Nekesa. Number one, standards interpretation. Most farmers will need assistance to understand what the standard requires. But what I've realized is most of them actually understand the basis for why those standards are required. So because of the quality of farmer that we have had in the past, where farmers were mainly, somebody accused us Kenyans of doing farming and not agriculture. So farming was being done as an ad hoc, by the way, enterprise. So it didn't take any quality, basically, of the person or the process to do
Jen, you're breaking. Jen, you're breaking. We can't hear you.
So for them to get it with in a, can you hear me now?
Yeah, maybe that's better. Yes. Could you please repeat that again when we're talking about the farmers?
Okay. Okay. In Kenya, when you decide to do farming, so anybody could decide, okay, fine, I have to up and grow something. There was really no system to it. So for them to understand what agriculture is, somebody actually needs to sit with these farmers and explain to them
Jen, I think your network might be, we are losing you. Your network might be a bit slow.
In a language or in information. But what let me see what I can do. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you, but I think there's a time it comes, you're slurring, you're like dragging. Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, so yes, farmers will require assistance in understanding what standards require, and that is why we were insisting that we need to improve on the extension service, because that is what those people were there for. At least somebody used to visit a farmer once in a while, and they will sit down and talk about what the market requirements will be. But right now they are not there. So we are looking for ways to mitigate that by whether it will be network based, like the way Trigger is doing, or somebody actually around that farm, somebody can go and train somebody around them so that they can keep going there, like the spray service operators. But really, yes, there's a problem. There's a gap between standards themselves and how the farmers would interpret. They shouldn't be left alone to read these standards. They need assistance. Number two, accessibility of those standards. Most standards, like we were complaining, a standard like the KS 1758, which most horticulture farmers are supposed to access, is supposed to be purchased from Kenya Bureau of Standards. How then will these farmers get to know what is in that standard? So we have embarked on like a countrywide awareness program, so that everybody who needs to know about these standards knows that it exists and actually knows where to get it. And if they can't get it, the system of aggregation, they get together, contribute somewhat, and then buy this standard, and then get somebody to sit with them and interpret this standard. But there's a lot of awareness now going on what standards are required and how to comply with them. And then on risk assessment, there's a set method of doing risk assessments, which is international. But basically what I would tell somebody, for example, if you hear that Roundup will kill you, for example, you need to ask yourself, at what point will you come into contact with Roundup or any food that has been sprayed with Roundup? Because remember, Roundup is not sprayed on crop. Roundup is sprayed on the soil before you plant. And after spraying, you wait a certain amount of time before you put your crop in the ground. So really, the consumer is the last person to complain about Roundup. But the person who is applying the chemical is more at risk than somebody who will eat that food. So the risk assessment here will involve, how exposed am I to this risk? So then you assess coming forward, if I'm exposed, then what are the mitigating ways I can get out of this risk? For example, if I'm the one applying, for me to, just like the way we are doing the COVID thing, for me to avoid getting COVID, I have to dress up. I have to protect myself. It gets through the doors. I protect my nose through the mouth. I protect my mouth through the hands. I wash my hands. It's a risk assessment. Everything we do in life is a risk assessment. So it is simple yet, but there's a scientific method of doing risk assessments. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jen. And maybe now linking the aspect of, that information getting to the ground. When it comes to market, we find that there's a question here about the farmer being a price taker. And that is something that that probably, Nicolas, you can address. How do you ensure that the farmer is getting the best price? What mechanisms do you put in place to assess that this is the right price for the farmer, and that the farmer is not just taking a price because from your end you've done the mathematics and you found that if I buy this product at this price, sell it at this price, I'm going to make a profit? How do you ensure that the farmer also has a say in the price that you're giving them? Is there a way you look at the international market prices, or how do you do it?
Good, thank you very much. A very good question. So I'll begin by saying that from a Trigger Foods perspective, and what would be ideal for the whole country is that first we deal in local products, so that are sold in the local market. Now, over the years and out of experience, what we've done, we've been able to determine what is the average production cost per kg of the products that we deal in, given the circumstances of farming in Kenya. And so when we started off 5-6 years ago, one of the things we were clear is that we were then offering, we have a policy whereby we do not pay a farmer a price that is below the production cost. So the policy is that we calculate the price, the cost at which the farmer grows or produces a kilo, plus between 40 and 50% markup. What that ensures is that at all times, the farmer is never losing. So you do not give a price based on what the market is saying. The market could be offering a price that is less than the production cost. And that's why in the cycle of our business at Twiga Foods, there are months when we pay farmers a price that is above the market price, and we go and sell below the market price. And it's like a losing money. But we have calculated our curve very clearly that what we are doing during that period is we are actually sustaining the farmer so that we can continue with this farmer throughout the whole period of the year. So to be straight to the question is that yes, we look at cost of production, then we mark up with a markup percentage that ensures the farmer has a certain sustained level of profitability. But backing with that is that now we've got into areas whereby now profitability is a factor of productivity per unit area and the cost of production. We've now had to go into partnership with farmers whereby we are assisting them through our ecosystem of partners to be able to enable them to achieve the right productivity per unit area. And then the formula of our pricing then makes sense to them when they have the right productivity and they have the right cost of production with the right selection of inputs, right application of inputs, and all those aspects. Back to Nicolas.
Thank you so much, Nicolas. I like the approach of what you're doing in terms of helping the farmer, because this has been missing for a very long time. And the challenges we've had in agricultural extension, I think you're filling in the gap very well. So another question is, what is the role and place of cooperatives in market access and value chain? Like in the case in your case, especially when it comes to dealing, you've mentioned that sometimes the farmers are segmented, fragmented. So it is really a challenge when it comes to, aggregating all these products. What is the role of these cooperatives? And are you encouraging them to form cooperatives where it is possible? And then again, when it comes to cooperative, we realize that the Ministry of Agriculture is also playing a very big role in this. Are you working with the ministry when it comes to such formations?
Thank you very much. Yes, indeed, cooperatives are a very, very integral part of the market access system. In fact, even in developed nations, and market access has been only successful where farmers come together, they have one voice, they support each other, they access credit as a group, and then they're able to market their product. As Twiga, we do not deal, when it comes to small-scale farmers, we do not deal with individual farmers. Not because we don't want, but we do not have the capacity to manage single farmers. Our core business and our expertise and our strength is in providing the market. So one of the conditions of dealing with small-scale farmers, and which is working very well, like in the Banana Republic of Meru, is that we only work with the farmers who are organized in some sort of group, be it a CBO or a cooperative like that. The main advantage is that through the cooperative society or gatherings or groupings, we are able to what we call harmonize our teaching in terms of specs. We're able to harmonize our messages in terms of food safety. We're able to harmonize our message and our engagement in terms of product aggregation and the collection, and it makes it easier. Then we do not have to see what you normally see on the road on your way to Nyeri, where men and women are running after vehicles to sell bananas. That's a failure of our cooperative systems in the country. What these people ought to do, they ought to deliver their bananas to a central store where we have workers who have been employed to look for market and store the product, and they go back, do what they are good in doing, growing bananas, not running after vehicles to sell. So cooperatives really needs to be encouraged, need to grow, and working with them. Coming on to governments and Ministry of Agriculture, yes, we are currently engaged with various county governments as we speak right now, through the various value chains that we deal in, of potatoes, onions, tomatoes, watermelon. And again, they're doing the same thing. They're bringing farmers together. Many county governments have funding from World Bank and other partners that are helping them to bring farmers together, to construct collection centers, to provide the training, to provide the capacity building. And through cooperatives and these groups, individual farmers who would have had no access to capacity building, who have no access to quality seed, who would have no access to credit, get these benefits. And the process now, the production process is made easier, is made more efficient, is made more productive, and now even their earnings are improved. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nicolas. And back to Jen, the issue of poor coordination and administration of food control management. When you're talking about KEFIs, KEBs, maybe PCPB, all these bodies that are in charge of ensuring that we have, standards and food safety, and ensuring that even our markets are getting the right type of, quality food, something that people, human beings, can eat. What is actually the role of, say, ASNET, the role of SOCA, the role of COFEC, the role of all these organizations in ensuring that we have maybe one organization handling? Is there any effort that is being made in terms of harmonization of all this so that we can have one agency dealing with the issues of food safety or the issues of standards?
Thanks, Nekesa. What we have been agitating for now is a central coordinating system for all these food standards. We now have the National Food Safety Coordinating Committee, which is under the Ministry of Health, but they are still undergoing a lot of modification and discussion to see who will sit where and who will do what. Now, our role as ASNET and SOCA is to ensure that our voice is heard and to agitate for changes in the system. Because for the government, they have put out laws and regulations, so they are comfortable. They have done what they are supposed to do. But we are the ones who are supposed to abide by these laws. So it is our responsibility to make sure that they are putting out laws that we can actually work with and not confuse the whole system. The way the system is now is very expensive. A maize miller will have a KEBS person coming to visit, a county person coming to visit, a KEFIS person coming to visit, an AFA person coming to visit over the same issue, which needs actually just one agency to find out what their role is. And then we're also encouraging businesses to have regulating mechanisms. I'm happy to hear about Trigger. Their structuring system is actually self-regulation, a form of self-regulation, so that if somebody comes to the ground to find out what they are doing, they're not confused and running all over the place. COFEC, and again, a part of SOCA, is informing the consumer of their rights. If the consumer does not agitate for their rights, the rest of us are left free to do what we want. And yet they're the most important person in this whole value chain. So they need to start agitating for their rights and telling us, business people, extensionists, and government, what they require their food to look like. Most of the standards, even in the UK, the Europe, came from consumer pushes. So consumers in Kenya need to be empowered, and I am happy COFEC and similar CATs, similar people have come up and are agitating for consumer rights. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Maybe just to take one more question. They're asking this, Dennis Juma is asking, is Trigger spread out throughout the country? And we also have one last question, probably on sharing of contacts, just so that we can be able to, probably the audience can be able to get in touch with you. I think those, you can get in touch with SOCA through info@soca.or.ke, and we are going to share that also on the platform so that you can be able to get in touch with our panelists. And also, Jen, maybe you can let us know, How far are we from getting our KS 1758 in terms of the whole standard?
Oh, by the way, if it wasn't for COVID, we would already be the government would already have been with us with a big stick, on us with a big stick, because it was supposed to have been functional by June 2020. But because of the delays in moving around, in setting up, in meeting, then we have pushed it to January 2020. Now, even within that, there's already awareness campaigns going on. There is a lot of information. Basically, complying to a standard means you have records to show that you are complying to this standard. So a lot of this information is going online. For you to get an export license, for you to get a trading license, you must upload some information onto an online system with the government. So it's already begun. It is just that they are not enforcing fully, but they are requiring you to comply for you to get permission to trade. So it's still, it's ongoing. The tools are ready. Everything is ready. The only thing is it is a 2016 document.
Yeah.
So it takes 5 years for a standard to be reviewed. So it's actually ripe for review now. So by 2021, there'll be a review. But as of now, we are working with a standard and it's being rolled out.
Okay, hold that thought first, because I'm going to ask you another question, maybe back to Nicolas. How widespread are you in terms of the country? Do you have any efforts to expand to the region? You know, I'm sure farmers in Uganda who might bump into this video might want to know more about you in Tanzania and all these other regions.
Good question. So in terms of a network of farmers which we work with, we are actually everywhere in the country apart from Garissa, Moyale, these are the areas. But we are in Northeastern, we are Rift Valley. We have just launched a massive farmer recruitment process in Western and Nyanza, like that. So once you get in touch with us, if you're a farmer through the soccer address that we just given earlier on, we'll be able to find you wherever you are. Now, in terms of distribution, we have been primarily Nairobi, but now we've begun to expand. So we are going to launch the Trigger Kisumu office or operation in Kisumu. Second week of September will be live and kicking in Kisumu. Then October will be launching in Nakuru, and November will be launching in Eldoret, and then we'll come back to launch in Mombasa either December or January. So that's how we intend to spread. Now, in terms of farmers, we are already sourcing products from Tanzania as far as southern Tanzania, Njombe, Iringa area. We bring in tons and tons of potatoes every week from Tanzania. We've also begun looking at pineapples and watermelon from Uganda, Jinja, Kampala, those areas. So for our farmers in that area that would like to get in touch with us, again, we are ready. Because currently we are selling a total of 120 metric tons of fresh products every single day. We are implementing a production program and a partnership program right now that will see us move to 300 metric tons a day, every single day for 6 days, starting November onwards. So yes, we are already all over the country in terms of farmer recruitment, and we will be across the country in terms of distribution by end of this year. Latest January, we'll be everywhere. We'll also be opening a distribution office in Chuka, Meru, Karatina, and this other side we have already opened Emali, and we'll be opening another depot in Kitui. But we are sourcing as far as Mpeketoni. Right now, the watermelons that we are distributing in Nairobi are coming all the way from Mpeketoni. You can imagine. So we are everywhere you can find us. Thank you.
Asante sana for that elaborative explanation. Jen, one last question. I know this one is, I'm sure most people would want to know about this. when we are talking about regulations, most people see that as hindrance, especially when you're looking at the farmer, probably the person selling, they have to now comply, the compliance now kicks in. Most of these see this as a hindrance to business. And now with the KS 1758, what is the implication of this to the farmer and to the people who are selling these fresh products?
To be honest, if you have not been working under any standard, it will be expensive initially to set it up. But the efficiencies that you will realize going forward, because you will reduce your waste and reduce your production cost, your operating cost, you'll actually realize that it is cheaper in the long run. But initially, it is expensive to set up. So we usually urge, like a smallholder farmer that has an acre of land cannot be expected to comply with the full KS 1758 as it is in that standard. So we encourage aggregation. Come together, call an expert, and they'll help you through the process. Alone, you can't do it. And number two, even if alone you can't do it, you have to have started some processes of recording. For example, keep your receipts. Anything you purchase for your farm, keep those receipts so that we know, and when you apply, keep those application records. If you employ anyone, have them register somewhere, whether it's an exercise book, let them sign that they were paid on whatever day. So there's at least some record with you. And then we are trying to also advocate with the government that for you to comply with a standard doesn't mean that you must be audited, because you're only audited if you're seeking a certification. There are various ways you can show compliance to a standard. If your product is clean and is within the chemical requirements, the residue levels, surely that is, you're following some standard, you're not flouting any usage rules. If you have employees that are happy and they are not complaining, you must be paying them above minimum wage. So there are various ways to ascertain whether a farmer is complying to a standard, and not only in achieving by certification processes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. And I would like to give our panelists just maybe 1 minute to give us a parting shot so that we can close the session. But again, as I said, this is just part 1, and you can already see there's a lot of questions, and part 2 will even go deeper, and we'll have even, people who are actually dealing with these products, in the supermarkets and handling them so that they can give us the experience. So Jen, karibu again.
Asante Nekesa. My parting shot is that standards level our playing field.
Yeah.
If we all follow the same standards for producing something and we adhere to them, everybody gets what is rightfully theirs. But if you get an unstructured system like what Nicolas was alluding to, then you have people who are benefiting better than others, therefore encouraging some shortcuts in there, because why should I then comply to anything while my neighbor is making more than I am by taking shortcuts? And therefore, it has an effect on the trading, it has an effect on food safety. Standards are there to be followed. Let us embrace them. They are friendly to us. In fact, the reason why, for example, we can't trade with Zambia for our milk is that our standards were below what they expected. So there has to be a way to produce products that are within acceptable levels. And the only way to do that is to follow a harmonized standards with your market. Thank you.
Nicolas?
Thank you. So what I would like to tell our viewers and our listeners in the parting shot is that there is market for everything that you grow within the known value chains that we deal in. All that our producers need to know is that they need to, first of all, get access to the right information in terms of where is the market, who is the marketplace, where they want to be able to sell their product. Once you understand your market and the requirements of your market, and you also know the right partners to engage with in the marketing value chain, then you will not go wrong. Do not grow something, then start looking for a market. Understand the market first. You grow something by fulfilling a need in the market. Understand the marketing trends, the seasonality, the pricing trend, everything. Then by the time you are now embarking on a production, you are clear about how you will sell your product, which customer, which route to market, at what price. That is where many farmers are failing, but we can rectify that area and go back to using reliable, accurate information. We will grow wealth by farming. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nicolas and Jen. It's been a very educative session. I'm sure most of the viewers who have watched this and who will even come across the video will learn a lot. So as I said, this is just part 1. We are going into part 2. And to thank everyone who made this possible, that is the Society of Crop Agribusiness Advisors, as well in partnership with SNV, and those who work behind the scenes, that's Lilian Wanjiro Mbudia and Angela Limo. It's been a great pleasure to host you and to be a moderator today. We look forward to next Friday, same time. Tune in and learn more from us. Karibuni. Thank you.